Welcome back to episode 7 of the first season of the Eos Exclusive Podcast. Today is actually our final podcast episode for the first season, so we've managed to get ourselves through a full season of podcasts, which has been very enjoyable. We've had a couple of really cool kind of coaches, athletes on, and it's been a pleasure chatting to, I suppose, to all of them. Really interesting to get the different perspectives. But today, myself and Lorcan. So Lorcan, for those of you who may not know him by now, is the founder of Eos Elite. So he's the man who coordinates all of this. So myself and Lorcan just kind of, firstly, we're going to have a chat with Lorcs and kind of get to know his background, so you guys know where Eos Elite has kind of come from and the kind of expertise behind it. And then what we'll do is just have a chat about and kind of dive into what we've been chatting about and who we've been talking to over the last couple of weeks on the Eos Exclusive Podcast. So, Lorcs, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. First of all, I suppose for people who may not know you so far, like, you're obviously the founder of Eos, but you're also a League of Ireland footballer. So what's your experience as an elite sports person been like to date? Like, where did your journey start?
Well, it started in the park. I grew up in England, and my family's Irish, so I'm trying to get rid of the accent, but it's still here. I grew up in the UK, and literally 5 days after I finished school, I came over to Dublin to take up a scholarship with UCD, the soccer club. My family originally are from Mayo. I grew up sort of near Gatwick, and over in England from the age of, I think, probably 6 or 7. Started off with gardening gloves. Nice. And most people go from midfielder, defender, striker, then as a keeper. I always wanted to be a goalkeeper. I don't know why, it's a bit of madness in me. But yeah, that was it. Just basically worked my way up through non-league. Played for my local village, then I played for the next biggest town, and then that's sort of the way it went. I had a few trials and spent a bit of time with the likes of Brighton and Crystal Palace, and that was sort of around the age of 16, 17, when I was having to decide on my future a little bit. Yeah. And my brother's in Trinity over here. I actually found out about UCD from FIFA years ago. I was like, I recognise who these guys are. And that's why I saw that option, really. I was with Maidstone United, sort of as a backup keeper in the conference, playing a couple of friendlies. But I just looked at the option to come over here, came over, trained, met the guys in UCD, and took it from there. So I moved here in June 2018.
And now you've been trying to become as Irish as possible.
I am as Irish as possible. There's a way to
Except
go.
for the accent.
Except for the accent.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you came over on the Astra program, is that right?
Yeah.
So tell us more about that, because obviously we were chatting to Orla Curran, Dr. Orla Curran, in a past episode, and obviously she's worked with the Astra program, and in terms of working with S&C and performance with those athletes, like what has your experience been with such an elite level of a program with UCD been like?
Yeah, well, I was fortunate enough to be offered that scholarship over in UCD. Yeah. And essentially you get access to the top S&Cs and the top facilities in Ireland, really. That's obviously where I met Orla. And because I'd done very little gym, I mean, I'd done little bits in the garage when I was sort of growing up. I'd done very little. I was basically starting from zero. Yeah. And I guess that was the opportunity to really smash the gym. And I remember actually in the first year, I put on about 8-9 kg. Not purely muscle. Not purely muscle. But that was the biggest thing that I knew I needed to make the most out of, because you have the facilities and you have the expertise, so there's absolutely no excuse to not maximise that. And I probably didn't realise the importance of it, but luckily my approach has always been from the age of sort of 16 that I've been able to play men's football. I've always wanted to play men's football, so I used to be going out on loan to any club that would have me for 3 games, 4 games, just playing men's football. And you realise from that, right, you need to physically be at least able to compete with them. So luckily when I came to UCD, the facilities were there, and at least for the first year and a half, I used to spend pretty much every day in the gym, and they were brilliant. That's obviously where I met Orla. She is a fantastic wealth of knowledge. They look at what you need in your game in terms of the goalkeeper. You need power.
So it's tailored towards you. Like it's not just here's a program that's the standard for the Astra program, and you go and do that. Like
specifically tailored. So it's effectively 1-to-1 S&C. You go in, you have your own program, and it was incredible. And there's also access to nutritionists and things like that. So you have no excuse not to do everything right in the first couple of years. So it just gets you up and running. Gives you a good sort of so now I have a decent enough training age. I don't need to do as much in the gym.
You were telling me about this recently. I find this fascinating because, like, obviously, like my background's rugby, and you know, I would have played good level in school and stuff, but I wouldn't nowhere near at the elite level that you are. Like, but I would hold myself to, like, as you know, I'd hold myself to quite a high level of training standard. But this is something that is really interesting to me. So you train based on your training age rather than like you were saying, like, in terms of your lower body and stuff, and like that's more maintenance training, and that doesn't really change, and like your gym is like the really good example of something that's just purely tailored to what suits you best as an athlete.
Exactly. So it's actually kind of a concept. It's not even a concept. It's research, it's science. That our current S&C, who's again a fantastic S&C at UCD, that she sort of introduced, because obviously my mindset's always been, since I come in, I need to smash the gym 24/7.
So people can get injured though as well, can't they?
Exactly, because you need to ask, right, if I'm smashing the gym in the morning and I'm training, well, we either train early in the morning or late in the evening. If that then makes me train poorly on the pitch, that's the most important thing on the pitch. And she said to me, look, if you look at all your sort of testing results over the last years for power, sprints, you have aerobic stuff, it's all at a very, very good level. There's a couple of things that needs to be improved, but overall it's right. If you can maintain that, you're doing well.
Yeah.
And rather than me having to do a load of work in the gym 4 days a week to maintain it, actually, because I've done so much work over the last 5 years, I have to do very little, and I still maintain, for example, my power output. It's quite easy to maintain it now because I have to do less. So it's like an investment.
If you think of it like that, it's like you've put your investment in for the last, like, so if you've worked hard for 4 or 5 years, like, you have that credit in the bank almost, and obviously then you don't need to, you still have to maintain that, but like, obviously, as you said, at the end of the day, for any athlete, you know, the most important element is how you're performing on the pitch, and not just in the gym. And the gym is more, an element that adds to how you can perform on the pitch. I found that really interesting.
But that's not to say as well that you don't work hard at certain periods of time. It's coming up to the off season now. There's areas that I want to improve, and that's an opportunity when you're not training, you're not playing, to go and hit those things and get ready for the season. Again, pre-season's a chance to load up a little bit, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you do the work in the gym over the years, it means you have to do less and you can focus on the stuff on the pitch. And even though I'm only 23, my body, I already feel the difference between now.
Like you've a vegetable patch over there, like you are an old man. I think that's such a good point, because we'll chat about it in a bit, but like talking to Orla, talking to Kate McDade from NutriKate, and even talking to the likes of Enda Hessian and Lara back at the start, like, I think a common theme across all of these different athletes and people in elite sport is tailoring what suits you best. And that's such I think a key taking from this kind of, like, you know, that's not just elite athletes. It's if you want to be in exercise in general, like, for exercise to be enjoyable, it needs to be tailored towards you. So, you know, you can't just it's not about doing what's trending and what's, you know, the most common things to do, whether it's in the gym, on the pitch, aerobically, whatever. It's about finding your happy medium and what suits you, whilst also keeping you healthy and fit, etc. So I found that we were chatting about that only recently, and I found it fascinating, to be honest. So I suppose that's your kind of sports background, elite kind of athlete side of things. Then you came up with this absolute notion to start selling socks, and since then vests as well. So I suppose briefly speaking, like so just to give people who are now starting to follow EOS a lot more and listen to the podcast, kind of like where did the one inspiration and kind of why have you decided to kind of say, right, I want to set up my own company, like, and specifically look at grip socks? What's kind of underpinned that? Like,
I mean, the first thing is I've always dreamed of having a sports career and also business on the side.
Yeah.
That's been my dream for, I don't know, I can't remember how long. The opportunity came up sooner than I anticipated. I thought it would be 28, 29, 30 when I actually sort of had my act together and had a bit more knowledge about life.
I mean, mentally you're about 30 at this stage, so you might be only 23, but you're cracking into the mid-30s at this stage, so fair enough.
But that's when I imagined it would happen. But to be honest, the opportunity came up a little bit sooner than anticipated because you always need to keep your eyes open for opportunities. And obviously I grew up in the UK, but I spent every single holiday over in Mayo, and I followed GA, I did the summer camps, all that sort of stuff. So I've always sort of keenly followed, and I have a lot of cousins and friends in the GA world.
Yeah.
And I started seeing a lot of lads in inter-county level cutting their socks and putting these tiny midi socks over the top, and they're wearing grip socks underneath. And I was thinking, surely someone is creating a good grip sock in your club's colours. That solves that issue. It works in football because it's a long sock. In GA, I was like, this is madness. So actually, I was in the middle of my masters then, which was marketing, so it was research and stuff like that. So I was like, right, I'll put this to the test. Yeah. And I created a Google form, basically looking into this, and sent it out to as many people, group chats. That's the great thing about universities as well, is there's a million different group chats with hundreds of people. So we got a few hundred people across Ireland in different sports to come back and sort of analyse the data, and there was an opportunity there. Significantly so, I can't quote the numbers now, I can't remember them, but it was overwhelmingly if grip socks look like your kit or your kit socks, it would increase the likelihood of you wearing them by something like 90%. So I was 21 at the time. I had a few savings from since I started working at 14, 15. I thought now's the time. It's the time to take a risk. It's the time to jump into it. If I knew what it would have entailed, I probably wouldn't have done it because it's very stressful. But that's how it started. When I said I wanted a business alongside a sports career, I always wanted to have a business that surrounds sort of the health world. My undergraduate degree was in health and performance science. That's one thing I'm extremely passionate about in terms of health, exercise, physical activity. We effectively have a global pandemic, at least in the West, of inactivity. People don't move, we're sedentary, our lifestyles aren't designed for physical activity, and obviously we're seeing the consequences of that. So if I can create a business that's actually going to help eventually reverse that. So to be honest, that's why this opportunity was it was a great way to start, because I had a tiny budget, my savings and a little bit from my brother. You have to start with one product to create more money, to then create another product, and keep sort of snowballing into the company that I want it to be. It's on its way. It's definitely not there. It's a long way to go. But I think people can probably see like things like this, the podcast, the people we speak to. I think it's going in the right direction. We want to bring value. We're not just a socks company. It's a huge part of what we do in terms of helping people maximise their potential. But we want to create value in their sort of health, exercise and sport journey. That's why it's not just a socks company. We have a long way to go.
I can vouch for that one myself as well. Like I've been working with you now. It could be
too long.
We're pushing on 18 months at this stage.
Anniversaries.
But exactly. Like we'll celebrate our anniversary as well as you celebrating your anniversary. It's that relationship now. But like that's what I can vouch for that. Like EOS is more than possibly. I suppose what we are searching for is that it's more than just a product company. Like I think that's that's where you're getting the value of the podcast. Like I love doing this. Like, this is kind of becoming my little baby. Like, you get to chat to people that you just never have a chance to chat to, which is fascinating. And then also just like being able to kind of work with different sports stars and athletes and figuring out how they work and how they operate is just fascinating, and being able to share that with other people to hopefully inspire them to either operate a certain way mentally or physically is, I suppose, getting closer to what your aim was when you started the company, I suppose, and the fact that myself, Cormac, Zach behind the camera there can actually contribute to that. And I think one thing you've done really well is that you've actually managed to put in place people that work in the company that are very similar minded. And I think that is definitely why we've had quite a good bit of success so far, and to touch wood that we'll continue. But I think that's one thing, that when you meet anybody that's working with Eos or for Eos, whether it's the athletes or the people within the company, we are all very similar minded in terms of what we're trying to do, and we all have that same kind of passion for those values that you have basically instilled from the beginning. So I think that's one thing you can definitely credit yourself on. So I suppose then, reflecting on your, let's be honest here, we're about a year and a couple of months old now. What's been how have you felt the kind of first kind of year or so of gone through with the company, like between balancing sport but also everything else, like, and running the company and getting it up and running and bringing in different people? Like, how's that experience been like?
It's been the most educating experience of my life. More educating than any degree, any years in school. It's just because you're thrown into the real world essentially. It's chaos. I literally didn't know what I was doing from the beginning. YouTube was my best friend. How to start up a company, register a company. There's so much red tape around stuff to do with accountancy, just the registration. It's just, I mean, there has been plenty of sleepless nights, but to be honest, I found it so helpful. And I know that feeling that a lot of people have when they think there's an opportunity to start their own business. It's an unbelievable feeling, because it's like, just saying the podcast, it feels like your baby. It's like, it's yours. Everything that we have made in Eos is ours. So for me, that's massively important. We know that every single order that's gone out so far, it's come through us. I've either seen it, you've either seen it. We have Adam who fulfills the parcels. We've touched every single order, and obviously it's getting to a scale now. It's going to move on to sort of distribution warehouse and stuff like that. But it's been a whirlwind. There's ups and downs. Yeah, I think for people kind of listening, I suppose this could be young lads leaving school and not knowing what they want to do, or people who are in their 20s, 30s, whatever it might be, who are, I think, one thing would be very interesting to kind of learn more about is how do you think, and because I definitely feel sport has prepared me. Like, school's great for some people, but some people learn more from sport or external extracurriculars than what they might learn in an academic environment, and vice versa. And for me, I was definitely that kind of, my sports definitely taught me so much about kind of how to operate as a person, and taught me values, like I'm from a rugby background, so in terms of discipline, respect, that kind of stuff, and hard work and that kind of stuff. How would you kind of, I suppose, do you think your sports and coming up through and playing at an elite level has prepared you to be able to manage that kind of, to the business side of things? Like, how have those skills transferred for you, and I suppose for those people who are either have been or currently in that elite level, like, can they transfer those skills? Is it something that's relatable? It's absolutely relatable. There's a million different values and things you find in sport. First and foremost, persistence. There's been 1,000 times we could have said, pack this in. No, it's not working. 1,000 problems, 1,000 challenges. persistence and hard work, that's probably the number one thing. To achieve anything at any level in sport, there's a lot of hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and so that's probably what sport has given me, is that drive to try and achieve something, to keep pushing when a lot of people obviously don't believe in you. The first thing when you say to someone about setting up a company, for whatever reason, I found this, the majority of people will tell you why you shouldn't set up a company, that that really work. That's why I was. So having that persistence and that self-confidence to know what you're doing is right. Obviously you can't be arrogant and ignorant, because obviously that's naive, but you have to know what you're doing is right, and you have to have that ability to self-reflect and go, right, yes, this is the right thing I'm doing, I believe in this. We've seen success with X, Y and Z, whilst also being completely open to other people's advice. The one thing I've done, I'm not an extrovert, but what I've learned from this is just speaking to everyone and anyone creates not even opportunities, but you learn from people. I had when I first met Kate McDade, we had a fantastic conversation just about running small companies, and a lot of problems we both experienced on the companies. We're like, oh, how did you deal with that? And there's a different way to the way network. I deal with it. Exactly. So just having these conversations, which a lot of the time you might be looking at your phone and you won't even look up and speak to someone, but just starting a conversation, you never know what comes from it. So going back to the original question, so I've gone off the topic a little bit. Going back to the original question, the drive and the hard work and persistence of sport is 100% needed, and also it's competition as well. There's a million bigger fish out there, much bigger than us. Again, it's mad that we even try and compete starting from absolutely nothing, from zero. We're not going in with these massive loans and equity and investment, and you can start up straight away in a warehouse. We started up in my front room here, with a few boxes, and
we've got the Microsoft photo out here ready for the four of us ready to go. So in the 5 years we can say, oh, look at us.
Exactly. So sport absolutely prepares you for it. You just have to persist and keep going, and be willing to learn.
I think that's such, for me, I think that's why I think doing some sort of collaborative activity doesn't have to be like a field sport, but even the new craze now for running clubs, fun run clubs, and all this kind of stuff. That's why I think it's so important to have that to implement that discipline. You don't have to be 10, 12 years of age and your man putting it in. You could be in your 20s, in your 30s, and then just having the discipline to get up on a Sunday, for example, and go for your fun run in, say, the Phoenix Park or in town or wherever you live. To have that discipline to, no matter what you were doing on Saturday, just get up out of bed and do your little bit of exercise, and watch how that discipline and routine transfers into then other things that you're doing, and next thing you know, you're not late for work anymore, or you're like that. I firmly believe that when you become committed in one area of your life, that'll manifest into other areas of life. And I think that sport activity and that discipline, just to be healthy for yourself, will manifest into other parts of your life 100%.
I think mentally, that's probably the biggest thing I've realised in the last couple of years, probably since COVID. Growing up, it's obviously you reap the physical benefits of exercise, but it's actually the mental benefits of what you're saying there, the routine. It doesn't have to be a sport, it doesn't have to be a team sport. Having the routine, the discipline to, if I said I'm going to go for a run tomorrow morning, I know that when I wake up at 7 a.m, the last thing I want to do is go for a run. And especially if you plan to do a run, and let's say you're working at 9, you could probably sleep for another hour. So having that discipline to wake up when no one else is there saying, get up, you need to go and do this. To have that discipline is extreme. I have a lot of respect for anyone who does this sort of thing. If I'm out driving early, driving anywhere, and I see people running, I have a huge amount of respect. And as you're saying there, if you go and speak to every single person who's out running at 6:30 in the morning and try and find out about their life, they'll be extremely driven, extremely probably high achieving, but also mentally strong. Look, we're again in the pandemic of mental health issues, and exercise is the solution. Getting up early and going for it, there is no better feeling than coming home. You could be home at 7:30 in the morning, you've barely even started your day, home from your run, and you've already achieved.
I think
you feel ready to attack the day.
I agree, and even at that, I think some people can get maybe discouraged by it, thinking that it has to be a 5k run, or it has to be, 10k in the morning, or I have to go to the gym and lift loads of weight. It can even just be getting up and going for a walk, like more just having the discipline to get up and just working up a sweat however you do that, and getting your heart rate up. And like, I know during COVID anyway, for me, like I used to, when I was working from home, I'd get up and I wouldn't even say it's more than 2 kilometers, little lap in my housing estate, and bring the dog, grab a coffee, and just simply getting out, listen to a podcast, fresh air, and you're home by 8, and it just wakes you up. It's like getting splashed in the face with ice water when you're waking up in the morning. So I think, like, listen, me and you we've talked for days about this kind of stuff. I know it's easy for us to say when, we've been involved in sports our entire life, but I know it's definitely harder for others to implement, and I suppose it's more just once you take, I suppose it's all about taking that first step, and then it just snowballs from there, doesn't it?
But on that point, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. That's where I want us to go, and that's where we are going in terms of our plans and everything. We want to make that happen. We want to make it easier for you to exercise. We don't want to make exercise easy, because you need to bring the hard work. But we want to make it easier for you,
accessible,
to start, not even start, wherever you are on your exercise, health or sport journey, to make it more accessible, whether that's through knowledge, whether that's through a physical product, whether that's through motivation. We want to do everything we can to help you, because ultimately that's going to help us all, as a country and as a world, in terms of our health.
100%.
Mentally, physically, absolutely everything. So that's where we are going. That's where we want to help you on your journey at any point. Again, it's through the things of knowledge. If anyone's taken anything from the people we've had on in terms of the podcast, and it's improved their sport, exercise or health, unbelievable. That's our goal. Job done. As I was saying to you earlier, we don't make money from these podcasts. They cost us money. But that's the most important thing, to transfer that knowledge from these people who are out there, but they're not widely necessarily
valuable
accessible.
as any pair of socks,
Exactly.
Like, that's what the ultimate goal is, I suppose then the kind of we've touched on the podcast now a couple of times, and the different people on it, and I suppose it's always nice when you come to a final episode and you come to the ends of a season to kind of reflect on things, and I personally have probably learned more from talking to people in this season of Eos exclusive interviews than I have in a long time talking to people, because I think it's very easy to become fixed within your bubble in sport. So you're very much like, I'm from a rugby background, I play for my local club, I see the same people all the time, I work out with the same people, have the same, and when I was younger I had opportunities to, with Leinster and stuff like that, to kind of experience more with like nutritionists and stuff like that. But it is, as you grow, like very easy to become fixated in your one bubble. But like this, getting the opportunity to chat to even the athletes we do content with, just getting like 5-10 minutes chatting to them is fascinating. So I suppose, like for me, my thing I've touched on already is just like exercise and how it needs to be tailored to other people, and the importance of making sure that what you're doing is tailored towards you, one from enjoyability perspective, but also making sure that what you're doing is actually going to help you towards whatever goal you have. Because if you're doing the wrong program and doing the wrong exercise or wrong nutrition plan or wrong wellness plan, like you could spend 6, 7, 8 weeks on it and see no change, and that's just going to discourage you again. So I suppose from the different people that we spoke to, like, what would your main takings be from kind of like the interviews and the podcasts that we've done?
I think the main interesting part is essentially we've all talked about the same thing. We've just spoke to the different stakeholders. We spoke to the nutritionists, the S&Cs, the physios, and then the players themselves. So for me, it's getting the perspective of every stakeholder in the game, whatever the sport, whatever the game is, and seeing those differences, because they all have different needs. The S&C will have certain goals, and the nutritionist will have certain goals, and the physio as well. So it's understanding the different perspectives, and ultimately I have no experience sort of being on a management team, but that's the role of the management, to then make sure everyone's working together, because they're experts in their own field, but they need to work together. I mean, I found the insights from the different athletes from different sports fascinating.
Yeah.
GA is an incredible sport with Ender. I mean,
their
schedule is just absolutely crazy. It's ridiculous. So just hearing from himself about what it's actually like, where you have to study, you have to work, and then on the weekend you go and play in front of 50,000 people. I mean, it's unheard of. So again, that's where the likes of all of the S&C and Kate come in even more, because it's not just right, you train in the morning, you do your gym, you go home, you relax, and then you train the next day, like most professional sort of sports setups. It's an even bigger challenge. So that's why S&C and nutrition for GA is even more important than, for example, professional football.
And I think one thing, like on that point, is that from doing these interviews, and something that I want to try and get across in whatever way I can in talking to these people, is making them more relatable. Like at the end of the day, I think it's very easy, like sport's huge across the world, like, you know, and it's very easy for us to, especially in Ireland, like GAA in Ireland, but also like rugby, soccer as well, like it's very easy for us to kind of put these people on pedestals and think, geez, I couldn't do what they're doing, or what they're doing is so elite, like, you know, I'd never have the resources to do that, or I don't have the time to do that, etc. I think one thing that is fascinating to hear is just how, like, they're all just the same as me and you, or the same as anyone listening. Like, they're just humans. So like Enda Hessian, it's like that man has played for Mayo in Croke Park in like
78,000
full
people.
croaker, full sold out croaker, and you're just like, he's there. Yeah, so sometimes I just like to, you know, sit back and put the feet up and go down and watch
assignments
the locals.
due as well.
I teach, and it's the same with like, you know, Orla Curran. You know, she's, you know, PhD. She's working with like the Olympic sevens team. She's traveling all over the world with these people, and she's just like, yeah. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was going to be an architect when I came out of college, and just like, it just kind of happened. Like it's just. I think that's one massive taking for me, and is that these lifestyles and what I want to achieve out of this podcast is, these people, yes, they're at the top level of where they are, and yes, they work extremely hard for what they do, but when you tailor your exercise and your mental well-being towards what you want to do, you know, all of what they're doing is it can be achieved by anybody, you know. It's just about, you know, they're relatable, I think, and everything they do is hopefully trying to make that more accessible to people. And whether you're aspiring to be an athlete, whether you're just an amateur who has a full-time job, maybe kids, a family, and you just like to train at a high level, or you just want a healthy balanced lifestyle, like these people can help with those as well, like, and the insights that they can provide are not just for elite people, and I think that's such an important thing for people to know. But yeah, no, I think the both the kind of relatability and kind of getting to meet the different people has been huge. And I think, again, going back to, and I keep going back to this, is just the tailoring. I think every athlete across everyone we interviewed this season has touched on that. You know, it's about making it tailored towards you. And if you watch other sports podcasts or talk to other athletes, and it's just, if you're not happy doing your exercise, you're not doing it right, like, you know.
It should be enjoyable. I think that's the key point, because so many people start exercise or January 1st, they start their program. By February 1st, the gyms are empty. So I think it's exercise isn't right. You go to the gym and you lose weight. That's not what health and physical and mental health is. Obviously, that's the way the fitness industry is at the moment.
Yeah.
All the people to get all the money is, I can give you a six-pack in 30 days. I used to have those apps when I was 16, 17, six-pack in 30 days. I don't think it ever happened. But that's the whole misconception of, right, that's what health is, having a six-pack and getting there as quick as possible. That's not what health is.
Yeah.
Health it's a physical and a mental side of things, and it's about your routine and what you do. Whether your exercise, you said, is, right, I'm going to walk 5, 6, 7k every single morning, and that's even my exercise, or my goal is to play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
That is, is in a very large spectrum.
And the building blocks are the same, though. You know?
They're the same in terms of the discipline to build that into your life, and that's where the mental side of it comes in. So take away all sort of the hormones and the physiology of actually exercising and the benefit on mental health. Just having that discipline and that routine automatically will improve your whole mindset about everything in life, because you'll have motivation, you'll feel driven. The amount of times I've felt completely lost, especially with the company, when you have a million things going on, completely lost. Like if you're scoring, I'm part of this brilliant group of other guys who sort of have small businesses, and they do a check-in of what you are out of 10 in terms of personally, professionally. And it could be professionally, 8 out of 10. Personally, I'm a 3.5 at the moment. But what I found is, and this is why I love the fact that I have football. It's a huge part of my life. Is no matter what, I have my routine of I train these days every single week. I'm in the gym these days every single week, and so there's your constant. The business could be chaos. It could be mental. It could be 99 problems. But I have my routine and my exercise. Fortunately for me, it's there for me because it's a team sport and it's full on. It's almost a year round. If I didn't have football, then I would have to put something else in place. I'd have to know that I'm cycling on a Monday, I'm going for a run on a Tuesday, because that routine, it keeps you sane and it keeps you constant when everything else in life, which life is,
can be
chaotic.
chaotic, you know. And what you said there in terms of, you know, whatever your goal might be on the spectrum, and making sure, like at the end of the day, as you said, the building blocks are the same, you know, that discipline, that routine. I think there's a quote I love, and it's you know, comparison is the theft of joy. Like, you know, just set your goal and go for that. Don't compare, like, use other people for motivation and for inspiration and for, you know, guide, but at the end of the day, set your goal and work towards it, whether that's, you know, running 1k, couch to 5k, playing in the Premier League, whatever that might be. Don't let comparison ruin your joy, you know.
Well, actually, sorry, on that point, I was fortunate enough to study this a little bit in college, but that idea of sort of a mastery experience was just comparing yourself to yourself. That's actually shown to prove that you're way more confident in a sporting situation. You'll be much more confident if you're constantly comparing yourself rather than comparing yourself to other people. You absolutely have to look at other people to get a benchmark of where you are 100%. At, for honesty, rather than thinking, you're right, I'm messy, but then you're actually never looking what it looks like. But it's very important to be right. This is about you. It's about your journey. Are you better than yesterday? Yeah, because it's all about you, and that's the one thing you can control. When you wake up in the morning, can you be better than yesterday? Yes, you can. That's completely up to you. It's about what you can control. You can't control other people. You can't control that. You can control exactly what you do, 100%. And that's something which, again, it all channels into where we want to go as a company and how we want to help people. But instilling this sort of approach to life is not just about, again, playing in the Premier League on a Saturday. It's about everything. It's about, can you run a 5k without stopping? That's your goal. This absolutely applies. And it applies to life in general. So sport shouldn't be separate, or sport and exercise shouldn't be separate to your life. It should be a part of your life, and it will make your life 10 times better. And
when you hit those goals, you celebrate them. Like if you run a 5k for the first time, or you start in the Premier League, you should be celebrating those equally, just because that's 100%. Your goal and that's your win. But listen, me and you could talk literally all day, so we're not going to do that this time. What we'll do is we'll leave that for now. So listen, for everyone that's listened to our first season of the podcast, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and if you have enjoyed what you've listened to, please don't be afraid to get in touch with us if you want to hear more about EOS, but also, you know, likes and follows and subscribes both on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, now Spotify as well, and
any ideas as well. Please give us your ideas, your 100%. Feedback, your idea. We want to hear from you. As I said, we're moving forward, and we want to hear you guys, the customers. You're the audience. We want to hear from you about your feedback on what we're doing and what we could also do. People you could have on the podcast, suggest it to us. we do all the emails ourselves, so we'll see it.
Yeah. If you send us a message, you will be talking to me or Lorcan, one or the other. Yeah. Hopefully, whichever you choose, you can ask. You can even ask as well. Can Lorcan deal with this, or can Simon deal with this? Whichever you wish. But listen, thank you so much for all your time and listening to the podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the first season. We are very excited for season 2, which is going to come up towards the end of January. We've got some really exciting people in mind for that. So please do stay tuned. And in the meantime, keep an eye out over Christmas for more content. So listen, thank you very much, and we will see you for season 2 next year.